You are being played once again, and it seems like you will never learn. You know what they did with the adults? They used to cook them in boiling pots. The world is changing and victory is near. At the end of the day, it was promised to us 1400 years ago.
Is it not yet clear to them how many peoples we destroyed before them, whose ruins they still pass by? Surely in this are signs for people of sound judgment. Had it not been for a prior decree from your Lord, and a term already set, their instant doom would have been inevitable. So be patient with what they say, and glorify the praises of your Lord before sunrise and before sunset, and glorify him in the hours of the night and at both ends of the day, so that you may be pleased with the reward. Do not let your eyes crave what we have allowed some of the disbelievers to enjoy, the fleeting splendor of this worldly life, which we test them with, but your Lord's provision in the hereafter is far better and more lasting. Bid your people to pray, and be diligent in observing it. We do not ask you to provide, it is we who provide for you, and the ultimate outcome is only for the people of righteousness.
Picking up the load. Come on. Clear. Spirit 02 flying for channel 1.
Master 89ers active, quarter Alpha 3.
Oh, it's their fault for bringing their kids to a battle.
That's right.
You know, at some point in your life, you come to the conclusion that your whole life up to that point has been a lie. I think everybody has had this on a certain level. Whether coming to the realization that your partner is a backstabber, your boss couldn't care less if you live or die, or maybe it happened to you on a deeper level, like it happened to me. To be honest, this mind shift happened to me twice. First, it was realizing that Islam is the ultimate truth, which made me a completely different person, which I've already discussed on a previous video. And the second time was about understanding how most people are. For your information, I mean the people in the West. I've lived in the West for my whole life, and I like to talk about topics that I've experienced myself. There are two things to know about the Western mindset. Firstly, all that matters is me, me, and me. If I feel good, everything is fine. You can't teach my children about homosexuality, but whatever you do yourself is fine. You can't drink too much, otherwise, you might assault me, but a little bit to elevate the mood is fine. You have to accept everything that I think about the world and avoid verbal conflict with me. Otherwise, you might take me out of my bubble and make me realize that I have no objective ground to believe the things that I believe. No sense of community, only individualism. Freedom to what? Freedom to do whatever you like as long as you don't hurt others. Well, listen, I'm an honest person. I like it. We have a similar concept in Islam. That is the harm principle. Now, granted, we don't take it as our ultimate ideology, but rather as a tool to measure some things. But my friend, we know that the West doesn't actually practice those values. It's just a slogan. This do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt others. Good, you are halfway there. That's when the second thing comes in: hypocrisy. You know, I could make it real easy. Selling alcohol hurts others, even a small amount. Pornography hurts others, both the actors and the low testosterone, weak, angry at life watchers. Homosexuality, well, you know what? I live in a very liberal country and would like to stay out of any watch list. But I'd like to take it to a deeper level to explain how these two, individualism and hypocrisy, form the Western mind, how one feeds the other. It takes some time, but stay with me. In the West right now, there is this we need to return to our golden days. It's a deception. Don't get me wrong, it's gonna happen, but it's not what you think it's going to be. Why I'm not a huge fan of it, even though there are many Muslims who think that when the West would return back to traditional values, it would be better for Westerners. I do understand that strategically, to push the return to traditional values looks like it could benefit the Muslims. But in the long term, it will only make things more brutal and inhumane. Let's see. What time are we talking about? What kind of so called traditional values? The medieval Christian ones, the Enlightenment eras, or the 20th century traditional values? The so called Christian civilization was among the most brutal empires in history. Sure, the Roman leaders or so called Christian emperors were feeling very good with their stolen wealth, and even their peasants, who hardly had anything to eat, thought that their sacrifices and poor quality of life will eventually pay off when their man god admits them to paradise. Notice the pattern? It's happening right now. There are literally thousands of pages worshipping Elon Musk, who is soon to become a trillionaire. You know, if you worked 40 hours a week, like most people do, and earn $10,000 an hour, like the top 0.005% of Americans do, it would take you almost 50,000 years to have the wealth that Musk is rumored to soon have. I'm sorry to say, but these little fanboys, and oh, it's more than you think, would sell their own mother rather than understand that Musk is a professional grifter and say anything remotely critical about him. Their methodology has evolved a bit, just like they did, allegedly from apes. Before it was a man god who is gonna save the poor. Now it's an honest billionaire with daddy issues who makes cringe jokes and plays video games. Sorry, who hires others to play video games for him. Cut my Musk hate out. Let's go back. So, traditional Christian empires have been the worst against the Muslims and their own people. That's why it's yes, morbidly funny that some Muslims now insist Westerners should be more Christian. It takes an astonishing level of arrogance to claim that God descended to earth to suffer on our behalf. And history shows exactly what happens when an empire builds itself on that belief system. We've already seen the destruction it produces. It's long past time we learn from the past instead of repeating it. Or should we go back to the Enlightenment era traditional values? You know, when they tried to figure out if women have souls or it's better to hang them, or when they drew pregnant black women off the ship to the depths of the ocean because they needed 3 spoons of rice a day instead of two. You mean these traditional values? Or which ones? Because these are the values that represent traditionalism to them. You have to understand what they mean when they use these words. The land without a people or a people without a land. They mean it because, in their understanding of the word people, Palestinians are not people. They are subhuman, or on a good day, human animals. People animals every day for food or to protect themselves. So, what if we have to kill a couple million to take over a land? Sometime in the past, you started believing that anything is possible when you work hard enough. You look at the great individuals of the West, the Newtons, Da Vinci's, Einsteins, Washingtons, and the likes, who laid the ground to what became the Western civilization. Then you became so delusional because you've already made up your mind that your people are just that great, that you start thinking that these individuals just had these ideas and gained that power to build empires out of thin air. So now you have arrived at your conclusion. Your great thinkers and leaders achieved all of that because they are just that guy. They are just that great, can rule the West and the world for that matter with peace and advance our understanding of the world through art, science, and philosophy while feeling good and harming no one. But then it's your 13th birthday and you finally grow up. And that's when the hypocrisy started creeping in. You understand that, well, actually, we got all this wealth because we killed 100 million Indians in 40 years. You understand that you became so popular and loved among the natives in their land, not because of your great individuals, but because you simply killed them all. And the ones who you spared were smart enough to understand that when a grizzly bear with rabies covered in blood comes to your door, you stay inside and don't fight it. You understand that these liberal values didn't end the war. It was the atomic bombs specifically selected to launch in civilian areas for maximum damage. Even though your own generals said that Japan was ready to surrender. But I guess it was worth it because you proved to the crazy Russians that we are ready to kill hundreds of thousands of people in a couple of seconds just to prove to the communists not to arrest us. But it gets hard to lie to yourself all the time. It gets hard to be a hypocrite. It's hard to understand that it wasn't about great individuals doing no harm and creating empires and ideas out of thin air. It was about barbarity and professional stealing. You can't handle this. Then it happens. You stop lying to yourself and become traditional. We can kill 3-month old Palestinians if we can get some terrorists. Sure, it's sad. It's like when you have to make a quick maneuver to avoid driving over humans and choose to drive over a cat. It's worth the price. The cute little kitten might grow up and contract an illness anyway, running around the streets in the dirt like that. It's for the better good. This is the Western mindset. Deep down, you know it, you're just too far gone. This realization is something I can't go back in time to unsee. At that time, when looking into Palestine in the beginning of the genocide, I made the right decision. All praise is for God to start looking into the history between the West and the Muslims. You know, after the first Crusades, when Christians killed all the Jews and Muslims, they used to put a stick through Muslim children and cook them. This wasn't done because of the lack of food. This was something that was posted about. Some of the soldiers jokingly said that the Muslim children tasted better than the dogs. These were the same people who, when they were back home in France, used to say that Muslims are evil and backwards and we have to take back our holy land. Notice the pattern yet? What you got to understand about the future, that is, to make educated guesses about it, is history will repeat itself. People will always go back to how they used to be, given enough time. unless there is divine revelation and people accept it. Look at the early Christian art. Naked men, one who is supposed to be God, touching each other. Little naked boys, pictured as angels. It's not different from what we have today with the Epsteins, LGBTs, and fans. They've always been like that. That's why I don't understand the push to unite with the Christians. How has that worked out for us in the past? The Christian Empire, when Muslims used to live under their rule, was the most brutal thing that happened to those Muslims. They've always been satanic and brutal first and Christian second. That is the Christian Empire package. You can't have one without the other. Their Christian system has no ground in the real world. When you change the so called liberal order, which at least gives us some freedom and chance to practice our religion, to a so called Christian order, it just gives them the opportunity to say, well, God told us to deal with you like that. And from history, we understand what this, that is. I saw a clip where a Christian talked with a Muslim. The Christian mentioned that he met a Sunni woman and started talking about sex with her. He said to the Muslim host, well, what else are you gonna talk about with a woman? The woman ended the conversation nicely and left. Then he tells the same story, but this time it happened with a Shia woman. This time they both laughed and had a good conversation together. What he was trying to do was to say that since the Shia woman didn't leave him, which resulted this so-called Christian savior to start working with the Muslims, which resulted him being on this podcast to fight against Jews. That means it was a sign from God that Shiism is true and Sunnis and Shias must unite for the greater good. They have this huge arrogance about them. They think that no one can do anything unless they choose to grace us with their presence. But I guess that's what thinking God had to humble and sacrifice himself for them does to you. There's nothing more arrogant than this. You have to understand that whatever they do, it's always for their own sake. It's always about power. To gain power over you, they brainwash you. The thoughts you have in your head are not your own. It's manufactured. If you need to believe that we shouldn't kill children, they'll put it in your head. On another day, you might get mentally exhausted to the point that you turn around and say, well, we should kill children if their parents are terrorists. The people who are putting these thoughts and feelings inside you, you know, the Owenses, Wenteses, Tuckers, etc., are doing it for themselves. They do it for money, for power, pride, not because God told them to seek the truth. They receive a call from their boss and start pushing a narrative. All these people are controlled. They don't say what is true. They are preparing you for what's about to happen. You know, I love the Tucker Carlson's line.
Collective punishment is the enemy of Western civilization.
Yeah.
Really? 10 years ago, you said that all Muslims should be tracked because supposedly 10 of us did 9/11. Oh, but he grew as a human being and has already apologized for it. The only thing that grew is his bank balance after he changed the narrative, and the only thing he apologized for is to his bosses after he received a call and got spanked on the butt for not understanding by himself the world order is changing.
That's not a Western view.
The whole basis of your values are doesn't look like us, doesn't think like us, them. You have to understand that the people who watch TV are going to be dead in 10 years. The new DV is social media. The people who matter to the real controllers and owners of the world watching YouTube and TikTok. They need to put these thoughts into your head so when things happen, you let them happen. And you won't even notice anything wrong happening because you've been intellectually ripped to think that it's right. So, what is going to happen? Well, while it's becoming clearer and clearer every day that the West has figured out that it was somehow the Jews who were inside their bodies and minds did horrible things around the world. It's actually the Muslim leaders who, carefully, to the dislike of many of us, have been making strategic moves and paying off circus artists in the Western governments. You have to understand that it's always about the money. It's no more about building empires which share similar values and beliefs. It's about the money. It doesn't matter if it's the whites who have the money or the Arabs. The Jews are going to have a hard time. But so are the Muslims in the West and the non-whites. Basically, they are going back to how they started. If you are white, it's alright. America will have a civil war while trying to push out the non-whites because they don't have the power anymore and don't need to pretend that they are civilized. They are going back to how they started, onto the skulls of their victims. Europe will become a wasteland with constant wars against mainly Russia, but also other Eastern powers, with the USA providing weapons to Europe. Whites don't have buying power anymore because there are no more customers being born. Money is moving to the south, and so will stability and peace. So, what now? You have to forget everything you learned from the West and about the West because you've been duped for too long. Only then, if you start from a clean slate of understanding the world, can you start becoming stronger, not only physically, but mentally. Then you can save first yourself, then your family, and then your community. So, join me.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
ليكن يومك للشعب ودادا ليكن ربك للأرض مداد للأرض مداد قلم أنت فكم عبرت عنها وبنيت المجد أطوادا شداد أطوادا شداد أنت يا ملهم شعب أن يبروا عشت كم حققت للشعب مراد للشعب مراد أنت يا ملهم شعب أن يبروا عشت كم حققت للشعب مراد للشعب مراد ليكن يومك للشعب ودادا ليكن ربك للأرض مداد للأرض مداد قلم أنت فكم عبرت عنه